Hi, I'm Heun, and today we're going to talk about the js-libp2p progress report. So the last time we did a report was in April. We did a report of IPFS and libp2p. So this will cover April to now. Kind of split this up into three categories. There's stability, debuggability, connectivity, and then the rest of the stuff. So stability and debuggability has been a big thing that we've been wanting to improve over the past several months as we're trying to help JS-IPFS get more stability on their end as well, because they're the largest consumer of js-libp2p right now. So we've got lots of bug fixes across the libp2p applications, so we're working on really reducing the amount of random uncaught errors. It's very hard to debug libp2p, and so we're working on making that a lot easier in the new release that will be coming out in the next couple of weeks, 0.24. We're also improving log messages as well to make the connection steps easier to debug as well. With that, we're working on error codes being passed in for everything, because right now everything's just error messages, and so people are trying to check, oh, is this an already piped message, which is really, really bad. So we're working on getting error codes across the board so that we can check those instead of trying to decipher what the messages are. We're also very close to libp2p and switch as state machines. This is going to be super helpful for debugging on our end as well. It's also going to allow the developers to be able to hook into more information, listen to more error messages, more warning messages. So that should be released in the next release as well. What we're going to be working on for stability and debuggability over the next 3 months, the big one is the test bed that we're working on getting with 50,000 or more libp2p nodes. Ideally, we would like that to be Node.js, browsers, Go libp2p, and Rust libp2p, but we'll see where we get with that. With that, we want to do stress tests on pub/sub and DHT. One of the big things with DHT that we've heard is how do we handle that at scale and make sure that doesn't fall over when we have too many nodes connected. So making sure that that is efficient and working well is important. We're also going to be working on our interrupt testing with Go libp2p on DHT and IPNS. IPNS is pretty close, and DHT will come after that, but we do have some dependencies on some JS daemon work that we'll be looking at doing at the early part of Q4. The other thing is network visualization. We tried to tackle this last quarter, but we bit off way too much for Vashko and I. So we'll try to tackle this later in the quarter, but we may need to get some dependencies there. Right now, it's kind of a stretch goal for us. Hopefully, if we're able to scale up the js-libp2p team this quarter, we'll be able to look at tackling that. So we may leverage, we have some community members like MetaMask who have some visualizations already, and then what Juan and the Filecoin team have for Filecoin, so we may try to leverage some of that as well. For connectivity, the support for delegate routing and custom peer routing those packages are done. The support for libp2p will be releasing in 0.24. This also supports custom peer and content routers, so people will be able to write their own peer and content routers and then plug into js-libp2p. We're also going to be enabling the random walk for the DHT. It wasn't enabled by default, so that has been fixed in the CAD DHT, so that has been released, and then we'll be doing some config updates for libp2p. The connection manager was released. Circuit relay interrupt we fixed back in April, I think, with Go, so that's fully functioning, and then we're going to be enabling circuit relay by default in the browsers with the 0.24 release. Up next, IPNS pub/sub support and DHT support. That should be pub/sub is soon. We have IPNS there, so that we should start seeing that pretty quickly. And then we're also, the big thing we're trying to work on is getting the DHT enabled in JS by default. So we want to make sure that that is nailed down before we turn it on everywhere. Other things, we've got private network support. We did a libp2p config overhaul, and we did a libp2p bundling customization in js-IPFS is easier now. It was kind of a pain before when the node needed to be instantiated before the modules that it consumed, which is really, really annoying. So we've created that so now you can supply like a factory method in js-libpfs and get everything that you need from js-libpfs, like the peer info, and then bootstrap that a lot easier. So there's also an example on the js-libpfs repo of how to do that. We'll also be working on this quarter improved docs and examples across libp2p, making it easier for people to consume. So we've been getting a lot of like bug reports and questions about how js-libp2p works, how the individual module works. So we're going to be making sure that those are up to snuff. And then we're also, as a request from the Agoric team, who's been working on some libp2p stuff, we're going to look at supporting ED25519 crypto keys. We do have support for that in peer info already, so that we're hoping that should be a pretty quick update, but making that we can actually configure that up front. And that is it.
Right now, like, state is kind of ad hoc in the Go side. Like, we have certain things that have states, but yeah, it would be really cool because we've been talking a bit about improving our error messages too.
Yeah, and we also, the switch connections are also FSMs, which is really nice because one of the big problems that we had on the JS side is listeners didn't enforce crypto. So even if you had like sec.io specified as your only crypto library, if a dialer requested an unencrypted connection, we just did straight muxing across the board. So now with the new release, that will be enforced if you're requesting crypto.
Awesome. Yeah, I would love to talk a bit more about that. That's something that I don't know that we'd be able to slot it in anytime soon, but